right here, this brushstroke right there will forever change the way I illustrate. Before we move forward, I can see from my statistics that 97.5% of you are not subscribed to this channel. Shout out to the 2.5 who are and are watching this, but please hit that subscribe button before moving forward. It would mean the world to me. Today, we're gonna be looking at this illustration that I did today. It's been a week or more of working on this illustration, and I finally got it finished, and I'm really excited about it, and I genuinely think that this illustration is going to change the way that I illustrate for the rest of my life. So we're gonna walk through it. I'm gonna talk through all of the ups and the serious downs. Here is that illustration. Here's the original sketch that I started with. I loved this sketch. I love this sketch because of the movement in it. It's very much an ode to Wilhelm Busch, Wilhelm Busch. So as I am digitalizing that and turning it into an illustration, what I'm really focusing on here in the beginning is getting that pose right. Because that drawing is super loose, but in order to bring it towards reality, I needed to detail it out a bit and add some anatomy. And at first, I did a horrible job. You look at the character that I created right about here, and it's super stiff. And so I erased the whole thing and really try to go back to pushing that character. That was the first fallback, was like, man, this is losing its energy. How do I keep the energy of this quick sketch while I'm building out a complete illustration? So here we go. We're adding some color here, getting some indications of light, how it's gonna pass, and I was feeling actually pretty good about it, especially right here. I remember looking at this and thinking, hey, this illustration looks pretty cool. But then I stepped back. Something felt wrong about it as soon as we had that main character in there. And then I turned the line off to see what the painting looked like as a whole. And that's where I realized that my value structure really wasn't working. And I thought, well, hey, I'm trying to make this look like a Maximilian Lieberstein type illustration. You know, his St. George illustrations, I'll put them right here. And so I added this line and I thought maybe that would help. But the issue really was my value structure, and I just wasn't playing enough. It wasn't playful enough. And right here, this brushstroke right there will forever change the way I illustrate. Because what I did is I took a step back and looked at this illustration and thought, man, this is the most boring thing I've ever seen, right? It's flat, it's soft, the character was not pushed, we lost that pose that I'd been talking about earlier. The inspiration I got for this was from the one and only Craig Mullins. Look at this painting he does. Now look at the underpainting. This guy pushes his illustrations as far as he possibly can and then pulls them back to reality. So I wanted to try this. And as I'm building out this insane illustration full of color, got a lot of crazy brushes, I'm outlining things with things that don't make sense. It's all instinct. This isn't grounded in like rules that I know. This is just my art instincts coming out into this illustration, and I'm just pushing it and having fun. So what I'm hoping is as I continue to illustrate that really this is what I start doing. All right, here I am continuing to work on that color, and now I'm carving out some of that mountain in the background. Pushing those clouds, pushing the colors in those clouds. I'm just playing. That's what you should see from this, is I am just playing with light and color and letting go. Look at where I'm at here and then compare it to that earlier illustration, and you tell me which one's more exciting. This is very early in the illustration process. As I was building this, I thought maybe I could just stop here. This energy is really good. Maybe this can be the finished product. But I want it to have this fairy tale feeling, and there was something about leaving it this rough and abstract that did not feel fairy tale-y. All right, so I'm getting that outline back of my character here. I really want it to have that Liebenstein feel to it, where it feels like a fairy tale, but I want it to be pushed like a Josh Clare painting, like a Josh Clare landscape was what I was thinking. So how do we mix those two things together was a really fun thing to play with. But something looked seriously wrong about this illustration, I started noticing. As I kept pulling back, the main character, there was something off about him. And I figured it out. It was his clothes. His clothes looked like they were reflecting like some kind of metal or something. So the first thing I did was bring just the local color of his clothes back to like a grayish brown. And then I wanted that dappled light in it. Oh, okay. All right. Before we get to the dappled light, this hand was really exciting. Watch me build out this hand. I don't describe any fingers in this hand. It's just a shadow. It's a highlight, the main color, and then an outline. There's no finger definition in there. But it looks great. I think that is a really solid hand that fits this style of illustration. I just think it's really cool. All right, defining this bag. He's kind of a David character. He's carrying this rock in a sling. Oh, it took me forever to get to the dappled light part. Oh, we missed it. The screen recorder broke. Okay, well, the important part of this dappled light is it wasn't as light as before. It's not as much contrast as when we had that really dark brown, and then we had this really light, like yellow. Now it's this grayish brown, and then a lighter grayish brown, so it's not looking like it's reflecting like a light. All right, to the foliage. This part was so difficult, and this is where I leaned so heavily on Craig Mullins, but I did everything wrong. So often what I found myself doing was getting caught up in the details. Like right here, you see me working on this one leaf. What you'll see is when I work on the bush that's on the right side, I don't do that. I do a lot better of a job of taking a big shape and sculpting it. Like I should not be working on these tiny little bushes here. I should be really working on the big value statement and then pulling out information from that big statement. But I did a really poor job here. Now, with that said, I think it actually turned out really good. It just took forever to get there. The easiest way to learn to not get caught up in detail is by getting caught up in detail and paying for it. Yeah, just adding a lot of interest. I didn't want an inch of this canvas to not be interesting. Every inch of this canvas was gonna be interesting. Yeah, darkening it, adding some really fun flashes of light. Again, trying the foliage. You'll notice that that leaf that I was obsessed with in the beginning is completely gone. And guess what? These branches and ferns that I'm working on right now will also pretty much be gone by the end of the illustration. I do think that Craig Mullins does such an amazing job with foliage and grass and things like that. I would love to learn his process, which he has a class on Schoolism that I need to take. All right, defining my protagonist's legs here. We've changed the color of the pants again. This is just kind of how I illustrate, and I think it's how a lot of people illustrate, is you just don't know what you don't know. And so you have to try things, try different colors, and be willing to change it. Everything is up in the air. Pulling out that shadow, making sure it's not boring. Right now, if you look at the illustration, the shadow looks very flat and soft, and one thing I will work on is you will see I'll slowly create color vibration to bring out some interest in that shadow space and really let my audience enter into the illustration. Even in an illustration that is super painterly and exciting and fun and not really super detailed out, there's a ton of detail that goes into this. Now, I keep it really abstract because I think that's more interesting, but there is so much detail going on in here. You have to be thinking about things like cracks in the road and how do you make a tree look worn and like it has life to it while keeping that detail abstract. So here I am getting caught up in detail again, thinking about the brush strokes and stuff, when really what I gotta do better, and you'll see I do this later with the trees, is build out the big shape and then give it its light and form, and then start to break that apart and create your leaves and your branches and stuff like that. I'm really excited about how this patch of grass turned out in the front. If you look at it, it's just really abstract shapes, but it really reads as a good entrance for my audience to get into this painting. Okay, yeah, here we are working on the foliage on the other side, and you see I'm doing such a better job of finding my local color, pulling back to my ambient occlusion. I've got my highlights on top, and then I'm breaking it down into the more fun shapes. While the other side looks fine, it looks good, that took me about 1/8 of the time to build out that bush on this side, on the right side, versus how long it took me to build out the bush on the left side. And I'm telling you, I learned so much from this illustration and powering through it and not stopping until it got exactly where I wanted it to get. Now I can come in and add a lot of details into this foliage on the ground. Some of that dappled light. I love dappled light. You'll see that my tree went cool here. was a really weird, gross kind of orangey warm, and pushed that back into like a purple, which is going to fit it in with my shadow shapes. And now I can add some detail to that tree, but it looks a lot more comfortable inside of its environment now. But you'll see as I'm zooming in here and working on all of this stuff that every inch of this painting is interesting. And that's the idea, is I want everything covered in abstract shapes, but when you pull out and you see it, it really feels realistic and like you can enter into this painting with our character. So you see I completely redid my trees, thinking about the same way I took on that bushes. So here is the finished painting. I'm so excited to take what I've learned here in this illustration and apply it to the next illustration, which is coming soon. Thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe. It would help this channel a ton so that I can spend more time creating videos like this. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.